And good afternoon, everyone. This is Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor, and this is the Friday afternoon QSO-VLOG network. If you have a radio you want to check out, give us a shout. We are recording now live till 5, and then we'll post it up on YouTube, so you can come by later and do a call letter search for KC9VKV, and that will take you to our QSO-VLOG page, where we're now featuring about 900 or so QSO-VLOG air checks. Also this afternoon, we're running 4 internet SDR receivers, monitoring Rochester, New York, Atlanta, Georgia, Arlington, Virginia, and Milford, Pennsylvania, trying to get a better copy on our 100-watt friends. Now, the audio from these 4 SDR receivers comes up on a 6-position rotary selector. Also, this selector is our local receiver audio, and today our local receiver is running 2 large 10-foot vertical magnetic loop antennas, one aimed north and south, the other east and west. The north and south mag loop can be rotated. They are selected by a 3-position rotary selector. Position 3 of this selector is a co-phase option that many times is 3 to 4 dB hotter than mag loop 1 or 2 by themselves. We do use a lot of rotary selectors in our shack, mainly because there's nothing faster than a rotary switch for comparing multiple signals, and today we're running 2 separate transmit and receive radios. Our normal modified Yaesu FT990 will be the transmit radio, and an ICOM 7300 will be one of our test receiver radios. And we do this because the idea being that the 7300 has a lot newer digital receive technology, so that's what we'll be evaluating. One of yesterday's great radios, the Yaesu FT990, in an A/B test with the newer ICOM Digital 7300. Of course, this is just a sidewalk survey because they will not be sharing the same antenna. The 990 will be on a resonant no SWR dipole antenna, and the 7300 will be using our large twin 10-foot magnetic loop antenna with co-phase option. Also today, we'll be running our new visual input source indicator. So when we switch receivers from the 7300 to the 990, you'll be able to hear the switch and see the switch automatically. And since it is an input source selector, or indicator, you'll be able to see which of the internet SDR receivers I might be using at the moment. You'll have to check it out on our YouTube QSO-VLOG video, our new input source indicator. Well, those are our working conditions. How about yours? This is the Friday afternoon QSO-VLOG network, and now let's check in and see if Charlie K1GZL is on the frequency to bring us up to date on the latest 40-meter band propagation. Charlie's QTH is up in northern New Hampshire near the Canadian border. Charlie, got a copy?
Oh, yeah. Hi, Jim. Good afternoon. KC9VKV, K1GZL, Clarksville, New Hampshire, 4 air miles east and southeast of the closest part of the Quebec border, and 2.5 air miles directly east of the very northeast tip of Vermont, but up here in the high country of northern New Hampshire. Very good copy, and propagation is excellent. It was very good this morning on 40 meters down into northwest of Melbourne, Australia, with BK3 Mike, Ontario. Here's just a couple seconds of Ian.
Hotel Beyond 73, BK3MO, QRT.
Okay, that was brief. So everything is fine here. We are expecting a bit of a storm in here late tomorrow, which will be mostly freezing rain and sleet. Storm is going to track too close to us to give us much snow. Although on the back end of it on early Monday morning through Monday evening, we could get a few inches of backlash snow. So, how's everything down there? It's mostly cloudy, about 35 degrees outside right now, and the normal high right now is 17 degrees, so we're way above normal. And we still have in places 23 to 27 inches of snow on the level ground. KC9VKV, K1GZL.
Roger, Charlie. Well, it's been raining off and on here for the past 2 days. I'm sure my mag loops are somewhere between here and there frequency-wise. When it's raining, you might as well just, do the best you can, because you never know what it's going to be, because they do detune in adverse weather conditions like rain, snow, and ice. And so you just have to, in a situation like us where we're kind of committed to this time frame, we just have to go ahead and assume that they're doing their part if they can, and we'll be doing our part. Roger. Oh, I wanted to ask you, when last we left, you were expecting 7 more inches of snow, I believe. I'm just curious if that did materialize.
Oh, yeah. That storm produced 10.5 inches. 10.5 inches of snow, so we're up to 115.5 inches. 115.5 inches for the season so far. As far as the whole season goes, that's pretty close to normal. We average, for the last 21 years, as I keep record, we average 194 inches a year. We did get it, and I was well plowed out, and I'm very happy about that. It's a 300-foot driveway uphill, and to do it by hand, it's a lot of work.
Oh, roger that, Charlie. But now I'm just wondering, I understand that your local community does the clearing of the driveways. Yours is so long, do you have to pay extra for that?
No, negative. We do not. We do not. The town realizes that we do get a tremendous amount of snow up here, so they're trying at all times to help out the people. It does not increase the taxes hardly any, and they plow very, very frequently. And if I need a plow out, all I have to do is get on the phone and they take care of it. I think there's only 2 or 3 communities in New Hampshire that plow driveways. Most of them do not, but most of them also do not get the heavy snow we get up here at 2,030 feet on the Canadian border. Go ahead.
Oh, roger that. Well, it's great that your community adapted to the situation and decided to be of benefit to its local residents. That's great. Unfortunately, a lot of other communities are not so forthcoming as far as services needed. Roger.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Jim. Absolutely. But we're blessed on that fact. We're blessed pretty much on that fact. Give you an idea of the snow average. We average more snow here in this part of northern New Hampshire than they do in any of the towns in northern Maine. They don't get as much. They get a few degrees colder, but they do not average as much. As of a few days ago, I believe that Caribou, Maine had just over 70 inches for the season. That's way up in extreme northeastern Maine, and at that time we had already collected the little over 115 inches. And Concord, New Hampshire, as of now, has had 27 inches for the season. So we have to keep abreast of it, and this next storm is going to come in too darn close, so there'll be too much warm air loss. But by this time next week, we could be in for a good coastal storm, which could throw backlash right over it. But that's a little bit far away to try to pinpoint it. My output is down a little bit. My SWR is higher. When the temperature gets over 32 degrees, I don't understand why that is. But since it is above freezing at 35 degrees, my SWR is up on this frequency, and my output is down to just 900. Normally I can run about 1,200 on this frequency when it's cold out, or if it's above freezing, the SWR is not too pleasing up here, and above 200, I can't load this thing at all. What I need is a tuner, and I'm too lazy to get it. After all, I have no room to put a tuner in here. It's crazy, but it's true. Back to you, Jim. I won't hold it too long, but you certainly are putting in a nice signal.
Right. Understand that your local community does the clearing of the driveways. Yours is so long, do you have to pay extra for that?
Thank goodness, no. Hope that came through, Jim. Okay, and look, I'll sign with you on the next one and give you a chance to work a lot of other stations, and we'll catch you on hopefully next week. KC9VKV, K1GZL. Beautiful copy.
Thank you, Charlie, and likewise to you. I'm copying you on both the 7300 and the 990 about equally well. It looks like about 12, 15 over. Now, I had a couple of questions for you. I understand that you're on the hill, and how far is your location from the coast? Just trying to consider that maybe your location towards the ocean might be contributing to all of that snow. And the other thing is you're changing SWR. Do you think that your elements might be coming together and getting longer due to the temperature of the weather or icing?
Well, let me explain this K1GZL. If you draw a straight line, the closest part of the coast would be 100 miles. And that is to the southeast. That is to the southeast. It's interesting, Jim. The temperature. I don't understand what's going on. If the weather 32 degrees. My SWR is lower, and I get a little more better tuning of the amplifier. But once it gets over 32 degrees, it goes downhill a little bit, and I don't understand why. I do not understand why that happens, but it's temperature dependent. And boy, I'll tell you. This is unusual to get a temperature above freezing this time of year. So right now the SWR is about 3.5 to 1 up on this frequency. So we're not doing that well with the SWR. But anyway, the distance from here to the coast is 100 air miles. If storm comes up the coast, if the storm comes up and off the coast, that puts us on the west side of the storm, and that would give us colder air, and of course, when it's cold enough, no. However, comes up and comes right over us or west of us, they're called inside runners. The storm is an inside runner, not off the coast, but inland, and that brings in warm air aloft. And early this morning, it was 28 degrees on Mount Washington, of all things, at 6,288 feet. And 29 degrees, and down 6 to 10 above zero. So that was a temperature inversion. And in that case, the higher up you go, the warmer it gets. And if that warm air persists over us, we're not going to see much snow here until we get on the back side of it. When the wind goes to the west and northwest, then we get the upslope, the orographic upslope condition. That's where we get a lot of our snow. Is a little bit from the south-southwest. A southeast wind coming in from the coast is we get cut off because the mountains southeast of it kill a lot of us. And northwest and a little bit south-southwest, it climbs up and squeezes out the moisture like squeezing out a wet sponge, and that is called uplift. Jim, go ahead.
Roger, Charlie, I was just trying to go around the bend as far as the SDR receivers to give you some kind of a report, but lo and behold, I had two that had bit the dust, and I have had to assign myself to those SDRs. You're doing about 8 over in Atlanta. Milford, I could not really to make good contact with Milford. I'm not sure. I think that's maybe my fault or their fault, but it's not working correctly. And Rochester, I think you're about 15 over in Rochester, Roger.
15 over in Rochester, Roger.
Okay, well, that's interesting. That is interesting indeed, Jim. On those SDRs, it's great that you can do that. Gives you a lot of diversity in trying to determine what the angle of radiation is and what conditions are favoring what area. It gives you a good scope on what is happening. Well, Jim, this is always a pleasure, and I'll try to catch you next week. There, and as always, I hope you have a good week. I hope you have a very good week there, and your health is good. And here we are, 2020. Gadzooks, boy, I remember being in the first grade in 1938. KC9VKV, K1GZL.
Roger, Charlie. Thanks so much for being with us this morning and this afternoon, and keeping us informed about our comings and goings, transmit-wise, and also weather-wise. We do appreciate that very much. So you have a great rest of the afternoon and a splendid weekend, Roger.
Roger, and Mike, if you're listening, I'll call you down around 50. 73, Jim, always a pleasure. K1GZL, we are clear.
Roger, Charlie. 3 is that way, sir, and we certainly appreciate your efforts. And this is just a reminder, this is the Friday Afternoon QSO-VLOG Network. My name is Jim, KC9VKV, and I'm better known in some circles as Dr. VKV. And we are now recording live till 5, so if you have a radio you want to check out, give us a shout. We'll post this recording up on YouTube in the next couple of days. So when you go to YouTube, just do a call letter search for KC9VKV, and that will take you to our QSO-VLOG page. And on that page, you'll be looking for one QSO-VLOG entitled My Group Aircheck 12420. That's today's date. My Group Aircheck 12420. So if you have a radio you want to check out, give us a shout.
BKV. Victor Echo 3 X-ray Bravo Oscar mobile remote.
X-Way Oscar Bravo remote. Come ahead.
Yes, good afternoon, Jim. It's Bart here, coming from you remote from downtown Toronto, transmitting from Meaford, Ontario via remote, and I'm mobile right now, and I'm using my remote client software, which is the RC Orb. It's a free open source software, and I just wanted to see how it's sounding. Is it sounding legible for you to copy? Back to you.
Roger, Bart, sounding legible, but a lot of low-frequency air movement sounds. You might want to roll some of that bottom end because of the environment that you're in, Roger.
Roger. Yes, I am on the Bluetooth in the car right now, perhaps, and it's picking up probably a lot of the road noise as well, and the low frequencies of the cabin. So I would have to play with the EQ on the 7300 back at home. So it would be probably one setting for the remote and another setting for the actual microphone inside the RADIOLAND. Back to you, Jim.
Roger, Bart. I just personally think that in a mobile, you want to get tight mic as best as possible, and I think Bluetooth may put you off contact with that mic too much, that the ambient noise gets in there with you a lot worse than if you were just using a regular mic and had it right up to your lips. Roger.
Okay, Roger.
Roger. I just switched to the microphone of the cell phone. I don't know if that makes any of much of a difference.
All right, I'm catching your noise level is a -4. I have you set at the 0 level, and so your background is, you only have 3 dB ahead of your background noise, Roger.
Okay, so even speaking on the phone instead of the Bluetooth, there's very little difference, is that correct?
Yeah, so that one you are exactly 3 dB above your noise level, and it's all low frequency stuff, you know, it's like 100, 150 cycles, somewhere in there, Roger.
Okay, Roger, Jim. Well, thank you very much for the input, and we'll have to play with the EQ as well, and perhaps get another microphone for the remote as well. Anyways, thank you so much, Jim. KC9VKV, this is VE3XBO mobile remote.
Roger, Bart. Just a question: do you have control over your compression settings at the moment?
I am driving as we speak, so it's very hard to try to adjust controls as I'm in a stop-and-go traffic on one of the freeways right now. But I have the compression set at 3 out of 10. Roger.
Roger, I would dump the compressor. I would try and just dump the compressor in your mobile, because there is so much ambience just waiting in the wings to grab a hold of your audio that the compressor just begs them to grab a hold, you know. So I think you might be better off just straight ahead without the compressor in the mobile, Roger. I mean, make sure your audio level is ALC-wise is 50, you know, mid-range to 2/3, but I would, you know, try it without the compressor, maybe, you know.
Roger. I was able to switch off the compressor right now, so this is without any compression. Back to you.
All right, now I think you might have went lower on your ALC when you dumped the compressor. So you know, you just when you get to a place where you can work on it just for a second, you know, I would go without the compressor and bring the audio level up on the ALC to your running mid-scale to 2/3. Roger.
Roger, Jim. Okay, will do. Thanks a lot for the input.
Roger. Now try that again. That looked pretty good. Give me a little dissertation about your radio that you're running.
Are you talking about the remote radio?
Yeah, and unfortunately, Bart, the conditions just shifted, so I guess I'm losing you. But I thought there for a moment you're way ahead of your noise level, Roger.
Roger. The working conditions back in the station is the ICOM 7300 with a G5RV running, actually, I'm sorry, it's not the 7300. I'm actually running on the ICOM 7100 with a G5RV antenna running 100 watts, Roger.
Roger. Now, your mobile was that time you were 7 to 8 dB above your noise level. That was great. You did not have your background noise, you know, trying to get in there. You were a good 7 dB above your noise level. That's great.
Okay, so I have the compression right now at just 1, basically a 1 out of 10. So maybe that increase my ALC automatically. So that's great. Thank you.
Roger, Bart. Yes, and I think you're a lot better at that settings. I think those will work well for you. You know, when you get a background noise and you're only 3 dB above it, it's like you're something's chasing you, and it's hard to hear your audio cleanly. But now that it's you're 7 dB above your background noise, I think that's just great, Roger. And you can listen to the playback, Roger.
Roger, Roger. Well, I'll be looking forward to your YouTube posting to see how it all sounded this time around.
Roger. Now, you might be just a little hot into your ALC. Had a little, just a tad distortion, but sounding a lot better, I think. Roger?
Roger, Roger. No problem. Thank you so much, Jim, and look forward to your video.
Roger, Roger, sir. And three's that way, and stay warm and watch the traffic. This is KC9VKV and the QSO-VLOG network, and today and for the next few weeks we'll be conducting a sidewalk survey, an AB receiver test between our normal modified Yaesu FT990 and a newer digitally influenced ICOM 7300. There will be a few anomalies during the test. Our 990 receiver will be running a resonant dipole with zero reflected wave, and the 7300 will be running two co-phase 10-foot vertical magnetic loop antennas. All transmissions will be from our regular Yaesu FT990. This is KC9VKV, and if you have a radio you want to check out, give us a shout. Station, there's two stations ending in Juliet. I would say the last, well, just both try, and I'll pick the one.
Whiskey 4, November, Sierra, Juliet.
November, Sierra, Juliet. You're about 20 over, Roger.
Roger, Roger, Jim. Good afternoon. Whiskey 4, November, Sierra, Juliet. The name is Jeff here in Charlotte, North Carolina this rainy afternoon. I hope your weather, I believe you're going through one of the stations in Atlanta, but if I remember correctly, you're up in the Kentucky area, I think. But great signal on you as always, Jim. I just wanted to kind of touch base, say hello on this rainy afternoon here in Charlotte. The last time we spoke with you, we were running the Kenwood TS590SG. Since then, we've put that in the number 2 slot. This is the Kenwood TS90S, and just kind of wanted to see how you copy this afternoon, Jim. Go ahead.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Like I say, you're 15-20 over. Your audio curve is just perfect. Wouldn't change a thing there, Roger.
Roger, Roger, Jim. I appreciate it very much. I enjoy looking at your Facebook site and everything. I remember the first time I heard myself on there, it was like, oh, my Lord. But it was comical. I think we all maybe have said that once before when we hear ourselves. So, Jim, I won't hold you. I appreciate the little quick check. You're sounding great again here in the Charlotte area this afternoon. I know what you mean about all the rain. It has been one wet winter, and I think we're going to continue several more weeks to come. So with that, I'll let you pick up that other Juliet station and then some others, Jim. 73, have a great weekend, and thank you again for all you do for us to help us with our audio and everything. KC9VKV, W4NSJ, Whiskey 4, November, Sierra, Juliet in Charlotte, North Carolina. Until next time, Jim, 73.
Roger, Roger. And what was the name again?
Roger, the name is Jeff. Juliet, Echo, Fox, Fox.
Roger, Jeff. Sounding really good. Don't change a thing. Get the Gorilla Tape, tape it down. It's there. You have succeeded. You have just one of the best sounding radios I've heard. So keep it there. This is KC9VKV, and this is the Friday afternoon QSO-VLOG network. If you've got a radio you want to check out, give us a shout.
November.
Station ending in remote. That's the only one that was in the clear. Give me your call sign, please.
Yeah, very good afternoon, Jim. It's Victor Echo 3, Papa Charlie, Papa Remote. How are you doing today?
Very good. Repeat your call again, please.
It's Victor Echo 3, Papa Charlie, Papa, Papa Charlie, Papa Remote. QSO?
Oh, Roger, Roger. And gosh, you're sounding good. Are you in the mobile or what?
Yeah, I'm sitting stationary in my mobile right now using my smartphone and Skype to access my home station via to access my home station via remote QSO.
Oh, Roger, Roger. Well, you're just about 20 over on Rochester and about the same on my local antennas, so that mobile is getting out, Roger.
About the same on my local antennas, so that mobile is getting out, Roger.
Yeah, QSO, I'm not transmitting from the mobile. I'm transmitting from my home station using Skype and my smartphone as remote QSO.
Oh, Roger, Roger. All right. Well, I was going to say that mobile was just smoking, Roger.
Roger, all right. Well, I was going to say that mobile was just smoking, Roger.
Yeah, QSO, well, normally it's pretty good too, but I wanted to try the remote today and get it recorded and see how it sounds. So I'm just using, I have my Kenwood TS850S at home. I run barefoot, 100 watts into a rooftop vertical, and I'm using my Android smartphone and Skype application to access it, QSO.
Oh, Roger, Roger. Well, she's just doing a great job. I think you've got it also. Nail it down. Liquid nail on that one, Roger.
So nail it down. Liquid nail on that one, Roger.
Yeah, Roger, Roger. Well, thanks very much, Jim. I appreciate the time and effort, and I won't hold it up. Thank you very much, 7-3, and good afternoon. KC9VKV, VE3, PCP remote.
Roger that. Now, I have got a bunch of internet mail that I've been meaning to try to get to, but it's just so hard to do that. But I have some with me. It's our cards, letters, and comments department, and one is from Alan. Says I've been. His call is KN4USQ. Alan, he says, I've been listening to your broadcast down here in North Florida. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. 73's KN4USQ. That was Alan. Now, some of this I have processed, and some I haven't. So some is easier to read than others. Here's from Rob, VE3PCP. Just wanted to share with you what I made my push-to-talk mobile. We were talking about a CRISPR microphone, and Rob made one for his mobile where he used a piece of PVC pipe and put the switch in one end and the coil out the other end. And he's using, I guess, a commercial electret condenser mic that's probably clipped to his shirt. Now, the electret condenser microphone elements that I was talking about are the ones that are just the element with some, like about 2 inches of lead coming off those, and that diameter, and putting that CRISPR, which turns out to be the shell of a phono jack. I take the phono jack out of the shell, and that leaves me with a piece of rubber plastic that's about 3 inches long, and I take a razor blade and cut about in the middle there, so I have about three-quarters of an inch of left of that shell, and that electret microphone will just fit inside the shell perfectly. It's just exactly the size, and what that does, you wind up with about a half an inch of the front end of that jack. The body of it in front of the microphone, so it acts like a port that differentiates between the low frequencies and the high frequencies, and we wind up with a pre-emphasis curve on that electret microphone of maybe up to 8 dB at 10 kc, which and you can achieve that passively with this CRISPR, and you don't have to have an EQ to make that work. So we have other items here. I do have, would like to get to one. It's involves Harold, W4YWH, and he passed away recently. His son, Robert, N8JMV, commented, "Hi Jim, great video. My dad, W4YWH, is SK as of 12/27/19. Thank you, Rob B, N8JMV." and to which I commented, the QSO that I did of Harold was in 10-10-17 at 8:45 a.m. Highland Heights VHF repeater, distance 105 miles. And I write that, did you ever wonder where all those tube-type radios go? Welcome to Harold, W4YWH. I've known and talked to Harold for years and always enjoyed our QSOs as conditions permit. And why not? He has his own repeater, 146-790 with a PL of 123. Right there in his shop, although as I understand of late it is now residing at another location due to lightning striking Harold's tower. But the temporary repeater location gets out as good as ever. Harold says the new location might be a tad higher. Harold loves to work on older type radios in his shop that you can actually get your hands into. And I'm with Harold. These current radios are just a pain. They're impossible to work on. Just a little undefined bumps along a printed circuit board path. Give me back the Drakes and the stuff where you can actually have room to work. Keep up the good work, Harold, and as always, it's a pleasure. And my personal notes now, it saddens me to say that Harold WA4WHSK passed away 12/27/19. I always enjoyed our QSO. And he was a man that was lucky enough to be able to pursue his hobby of rebuilding classic older ham radios to the end. A lucky man indeed. And his essence lives on through the magic of radio. If you would like to hear that, it would be go to YouTube and do a call letter search for KC9VKV and Boat Anchor Repairs. It has an RS number of RS1085. Well done, Harold, and I'm very thankful I had the opportunity to meet you along life's roads. Condolences to the family. And we have a lot more, but we'll hold that for right now and get back to our checking on radios. If you have a radio you want to check out, give us a shout.
Checking on radios. If you have a radio you want to check out, give us a shout.
Kilo Charlie 1, Charlie Juliet Delta, November 4.
Kilo Charlie 1, come back with the call sign, please.
Kilo Charlie 1, come back with the call sign, please.
Kilo Charlie 1, Charlie Juliet Delta, over.
Roger. Now, where is 1? Where is Charlie Hotel 1? Where is that location?
Charlie Hotel 1, where is that location?
I'm in Aiken County, South Carolina, Roger.
Roger. I don't think I've ever recalled operating and meeting a 1 on the frequency, Roger. You're my first 1, okay?
Yeah, 1 on the frequency, Roger. You're my first 1, okay?
Well, we worked last year, and you tuned the 70, a real fine radio. And my screen went down, and I sent the radio in, and I forgot to plug in and download all my settings over.
Oh, Roger. So you had a 7300 that had a malfunction, is that a Roger?
It was a 7610, over.
Oh, even worse. Well, did they get it back together?
Oh yeah, yes they did. They put a new screen on it, fixed a few things into it, and I had things written down enough so that I was able to put it back to where you had recommended me to leave it as a setting, other than I'm not driving the mic as hard as you had recommended me to drive it, over.
Oh, well, I don't know, because you're just, I think you have about a dB dynamic range as we speak, so I wouldn't increase it at all, but I would check my ALC to be sure that I was only mid-scale to 2/3. Roger.
Yes, I'm about a little past mid. If I was rated a 1 to 10, I'd rate it at about an 8.5, over.
Roger. Now we're running 65 on your drive.
60% on the mic drive, over.
Roger. Just excellent. Don't increase it. Just get the Gorilla Tape and tape it down. It's beautiful.
thank you very much. I think I did everything that you had told me to do prior to this, and other than the mic drive, and somebody came back a couple of weeks ago and said I was splashing 10 dB, and I don't see how I could have done that over.
No, not at all. Not at all. Now, you know, you have situations where you are overloading somebody's receiver. Now, I always run in antenna attenuate, just because I'm doing this on the fly, and I don't want some 40 over to wind up just totally distorted on my tape. So I deliberately run two conditions. I run in antenna attenuate, which is about a 15 dB pad on the antenna, and also on the 7300, that is the preamp 1 mode, which is not running the preamp. I don't know why they call it preamp 1, because you're not running it, but they have three positions, preamp 1, 2, 3, and 2 and 3 are gain modes, so 1 is the least gain, so I'm assuming that is with the preamp out of the circuit. So I run that because the 7300 I don't believe has an attenuate, so I just don't run the preamp and call it even. The other thing is on the RF gain. Now, you know, I'm trying to get the cleanest recording known to mankind, so it's very important for me that the radio does not add anything to the incoming signal. And the way you do that is by running reduced RF gain. And you back off your RF gain to where when a person is speaking, when they finish speaking, the background noise does not come rushing up. So you keep whittling away your RF gain to where when they cease speaking, the background noise stays just the same. Roger, Roger?
Roger on that. I understand that not completely 100% because I'm really a newbie at this. Only been around 5 or 6 years with it.
Frequencies in use, please.
And I'm in love with the thing. When I had to send it out, you would have saw a grown man cry over.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. There's somebody in there. Sir, the frequency is in use. The frequency is in use. Yeah, I think the 7610 is just one of the great radios. You know, it is a, well, you're a very lucky person.
Well, thank you very much. I went back to my 7410, and it worked, and I was able to make contacts and everything, and run it through the linear when I was on 20 through 10. On 40, unfortunately, I can't run a linear. I destroyed the balun, I believe, over.
You destroyed what?
I was told by the fellow that makes the linear that I probably blew the balun up, and it was a 3,000 watt balun, and I was running 600 watts at the time, and my SWR just went crazy over.
Yeah, Roger. I don't usually run any of that. The only thing I do run is, you know, the dirty coil there to keep the RF headed in the right direction. But as far as transformers, I don't run the transformers, and I have zero standing wave, so they're not really necessary for a great match.
Yes, and I've talked with several people since then, and they've had the same problem with baluns that were rated at 1,500 watts, putting 500 watts through them, and lo and behold, power, they're just gone over.
Yeah, it's just something to get in the way of malfunctioning that's not really needed. You know, I think if you achieve almost no standing wave, then I can't really see the advantage of the transformer, which you would assume would be a matching situation. Roger?
Yes, and when I go to
frequency is in use, please.
And then come back to this location. I'm going to put up something that'll go from 160 to 40, and pretty much come down to about 1.6 to 1.8, and between the radio and the amplifier, it'll wipe that right out, put it right down to 1-to-1, Roger.
We have a very discourteous operator. Sir, the frequency is in use.
Ignore the guy, he's a nutcase.
Roger, roger. Well, this is KC9VKV, the QSO-VLOG network for Friday afternoon. If you have a radio you want to check out, give me a shout.
Man. November 9, W3FOX.
W3FRX?
Yeah, this W3FOX handle is Dave, Dog Able Victor Easy in Maryland, and we're using a 7300 with an ICOM PW1, over.
Sounds really good, really good. How long have you had that radio?
Well, I've had the 7300 now for 2+ years, and absolutely love it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. The only thing that I see is that they may have set the ALC just a little tight in order to, you know, I don't know. But it has some difficulties in achieving actual 100 watts on single sideband, I believe.
Yeah, it doesn't quite get to 100 watts. I understand that, but I'm using the linear most of the time anyway because I'm chasing DX.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, you know, and most of the time you're running a box, and the box is only calling for 50 watts. So by the time it's all said and done, the radio works absolutely perfect, Roger.
Yeah, right now I've got the mic gain at 50% and the RF at 50%. And do you feel like I'm splattering right now, over?
Not at all. No. It looks good. Your dynamic range is about 2.5 dB. Audio EQ curve is perfect.
Yeah, when I keep getting people, I don't know if it's because I'm overloading their receiver or what, but they tell me I'm 25 kc wide.
Yeah, Roger. Well, you know, I would ask them what their signal strength is. You know, you can overload any radio. You can splatter, you know, 50 kc if you're, you know, giving the person a 60 over.
Yeah. Okay, well, that makes me feel a lot better, and I appreciate the check there for the signal width and so forth. And I've been thinking about upgrading to the 7610, but so far I'm not sure I'm going to work anything that I'm not able to work with the 7300. I'm thinking that better putting money in the antennas than into the radio, over.
We have someone that's bent on causing QRM interference. You know, and when, well, it's another shining example of mental illness. Mental illness is when a person does something completely abnormal in a certain normal situation. And he's completely abnormal in his reaction to hearing intelligent conversation, indicating the person has a deep-seated lack of self-esteem and self-respect, manifesting in the need to try and destroy that intelligent conversation that makes him feel so inferior. But they're powerless wimps and wind up being just some crap in the background, which is exactly what they are, some crap in the background of life. But, oh Lord, please forgive my intolerance. This is KC9VKV, and when I come face to face with mental illness, I feel led to prayer, so this is my prayer for the mentally ill. O Lord, I confess that I have judged those who struggle with mental illness. I have judged because I do not understand. Forgive me for making assumptions. Forgive me for my indifference. O Lord, please hear my prayer. Comfort and relieve those who are troubled in mind and spirit. Bring them hope, peace, and the consolation of a loving community. Grant patience and courage to the families and friends of those who are mentally ill. Increase their abilities to cope as they face the challenges of recovery. O Lord, protect and defend those living with mental illness. We seek your presence in their lives. Show them how to have greater respect for their fellow man and increase our ability to communicate with the mentally ill. This is KC9VKV and my prayer for the mentally ill.
Seeing the frequencies in use. Amen.
The frequency is in use. The frequency is in use. This is KC9VKV, and I continue my prayer for the mentally ill. Oh Lord, please help us identify mental illness as the disease it is, that we might have courage and wisdom in the face of ignorance and stigma. Inspire us as we seek enlightened treatment and services for the mentally ill. Lord, I know your gentle and kind-hearted love awaits those suffering from mental illness. It shields them in the dark, and when the light fills to overwhelming, please help us remember all those who continue to live in the depths of depression. O Lord, cherish them when they find it difficult to cherish themselves. Comfort those who live in the darkness of depression. May we be a light in their darkness. Help us in their struggle with mental illness, to show them the way to come up for air and to see again your goodness. This is KC9VKV, and my prayer for the mentally ill.
Yeah, it's W7CSA. This is Kilo 4 Romeo Juliet Tango.
Kilo 4 Romeo Juliet Tango?
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. You can step all in him anyway. Your signal is way better than his. But I had a question on the 7300.
Hey, well, they don't know the frequencies. I wanted to break in. I had a question for the gentleman there, and he's going to tell me the frequencies in use.
Did you copy that?
Yes, I'm speaking to the gentleman. Sir, the frequency was in use. If you have a comment, then to call when you're called for. You know, between I'm working these stations. You don't start calling in the middle of somebody else's conversation, sir. That's very, intolerant.
Well, you're supposed to acknowledge my station, and then you get to me when you're done with your traffic. You don't just say the frequencies in use and ignore a station breaking in. Man, you're nuts if you think that's the way to operate.
Well, he does if you don't give him a call sign.
Sir, can I have your call sign? Would you care to share your call sign?
Robert, and why don't you learn to be more respectful to other amateur radio operators?
What's your call sign?
It's Kilo 4 Whiskey Zulu Victor, K4WZV.
Yeah, the only thing I heard, sir, was you were, right in the middle of somebody's conversation, and I said this is frequencies in use, and that means that if you would wait till there is a change in the transmissions from one station to the other, that would be the time to call, sir.
I'm done talking to a wall. Have a good day. Enjoy the hobby. K4WZV's clear.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Anyway, this is KC9VKV, Friday afternoon QSO-VLOG. If you've got a radio that you want to check out, give us a shout.
Whiskey 7 Charlie Sierra Alpha.
November 9th.
Charlie Sierra Alpha, go.
Yeah, it's Whiskey 7 Charlie Sierra Alpha. Name's Robert, located in Gastonia, North Carolina. Yeah, I've spoke with you before. I just want to make sure she's still sounding good and let you know, yeah, you're sounding real good down this way, coming in about 20 dB over today.
Roger. Well, I'm looking at you on a VU meter. I set my your voice level at 0, and then when you see speaking, I see the ambient channel noise, and it looks to be down there around minus 12, so you are 12 dB above my local noise level, and the audio is just perfect, Roger.
All right. Well, hey, thanks a lot. Yeah, you'd helped me out with it before. That one tip you gave me, and I've gave it to a lot of other people too, where you say to crank those highs up all the way, because you explained to me how, sideband being transmitted, how you'll lose those highs. And, yeah, that seemed to work good, and I've passed that on to some others, and seemed to work good for them. But I just thought I'd stop by and make sure she's still sounding good and say hello to you, Jim. I hadn't talked to you in a while.
Oh, Roger. Now that's not always the case. It depends on the microphone. If the guy's running an electret condenser microphone or a professional condenser microphone, he may have quite a bit of top-end response already, so he may not need, max top EQ. He might, be able to do it flat. It all depends on, their sibilance capabilities of the microphone and their current EQ. But that usually is the case, that the more top end within limitations, the better the articulation. Roger?
Oh, yeah, roger that. All right, well, I'm going to get out here. There's someone that needs your help get in, but I just thought I'd say hello. I was able to get to the radio today here, took the day off work. So, all right, Jim, you have a good one up there. I think you're in Indiana, I believe, and sounding good down here in North Carolina. W7CSA, I'm good and clear.
Roger, Roger. Now, just out of curiosity, the audio was very, very clean, but I did hear one kind of transient. So, were you running a foam windscreen?
No, I don't have a windscreen.
Roger, Roger. Well, your signal is very clear, and that's not the problem. But you know, it would if you were to maybe work any closer, or you know, everybody can develop some of those problems, and a good foam windscreen certainly will just take that problem away. Roger.
Oh, okay, Roger that. Yeah, okay, I'll look into getting one of those. But okay, well, hey, thanks a lot, Jim.
Roger, Roger. This is Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor, and the QSO-VLOG network. If you've got a radio you want to check out, give us a shout. Gosh, there was about 7 stations in there. Let me go around the internet's SDRs and see if I can break up those stations. Try again, please. Golf, a Kilo Victor station. Come back with a call sign again.
This is November 3, Golf Kilo Victor. Name is Bob. UTH is near Allentown, PA. I spoke to you last week, and I guess you detected some bass down around 100 hertz, and we were endeavoring to lower that, and which I did pretty much, but later in conversations,
equipment indicated that there was, low-end bass in there, and claimed it was, creating some mud. So I went into the settings on the radio and saw there was a low-frequency filter on this thing. So that currently is set at 200, and I increased the slope from 6 dBs to 18 dBs per octave. Just curious if we're still seeing any kind of if that's cut out some of the bass that you were saying. Back to you.
All right. First off, what radio are you running?
Using the Yaesu FTDX 101D, and I'm using an Electro Voice RE320 microphone on that.
Okay. And what is the setup? Are you running your compressor at a 3?
Yes, processor may be a little hotter than that, and I was thinking, is this better to do with the processor on?
No. You put your processor on a 3. That is a token amount, but it does exactly what it's supposed to do. So the processor on at a 3. Roger.
Okay, the processor has been turned back. I don't have really a 3s. I mean, the number would be 30, which would be 3/10 of the way up.
Yes, sir. That's fine. And then go to your ALC, and with mic gain in hand, and adjust your ALC to mid-scale to 2/3 by your mic gain.
Okay, let me push this in here. Okay, mic gain now, let me back this off a little bit. The ALC is peaking up around 2/3 at this point.
Oh, Roger. Okay, now you want to be sure that your radio is in 100 to 2900. Your band pass for that radio is 100 to 2900, Roger.
Okay, yes, in fact, you helped me with that last week, and we set it from the higher setting down to 100 to 2900.
Okay, so you are running 100 to 2900, Roger?
Yes, I am.
Okay, now let's go to your EQ. What kind of EQ do you have, sir?
Okay, the EQ is there are 3 bands. This is the same one that was on from what I can tell, the same as on the ICOM 1200 and through the 5000 into the 101D. So what I'm running here is 200 hertz, currently a -10 with a bandwidth of 1.
I thought that was a 3-band. That sounds like a parametric. Is that a Roger?
Yes, it is a parametric. We're running those things. I think the first one goes up to 700. I'm not sure of all the ranges, but I had my first one set at 200. The second is 900. And the third I wanted to check out. Last weekend when I called in, I had it up at 2800 with a +10 and a bandwidth of 2. And doing some studying, and it looks like many people are running it more in the 2200 range, with the plus 10 and varying bandwidths. I didn't know if you had thoughts about one of those better having it lower and increasing bandwidth, or running it up on the high end and jacking it up the way I was at the 2800.
Well, I think the issue is the low frequency. So I would go that base EQ. I would put it in a what widths do you have that EQ?
Well, the EQ, I can go down to 100, and it goes up to, I think, close to, maybe 700 on the lowest, the base EQ, or the lowest equalizer.
All right, I would continue rolling off on the bottom end. You're still heavy on the bottom end. Now, I'm listening to a speaker system that's flat down to 50 cycles, so I can hear, a lot of stuff down there. I realize that other receivers are not going to be receiving anywhere near that lower frequency, but a lot of times those lower frequencies do cause distortion, and it has effects on some of the upper frequency ranges in the mid-range, although it is coming from a lower frequency distortion. So I would, what is your maximum roll number on that EQ? I mean, how many, is it like a minus 10?
It goes, and it's a minus 10, which is the highest I can cut it, and then the bandwidth right now is 1. I still was wondering, though, whether it wouldn't make sense on the low cut of the radio to knock, I'm at a 200 on that, and I was wondering, I could bring that down to 100, and that may get rid of this low end if you're still seeing it.
Sir, listen to me. You want to stay in the 100 to 2900 bandpass. When you get into lesser bandpasses, you're rolling off your top end as well as rolling off your bottom end. You want to keep that top end in the, basically 100 to 2900, so you have a nice top end, and then EQ the lower frequency out, Roger, or down.
Okay. That's fine. I found out that this thing has a low-cut filter in it, and I thought that would be one way I understand the 100 to 29, and of course I'm going to leave it there. I just thought there is a low-cut filter on this thing that can take between 6 and 18 dBs off, and I currently have that at 200, and I'm thinking maybe that should be at the 100, which might help cut some of this out. But you're the person with knowledge here.
Right. Well, see, if you drop it from 200 to 100, it'll be even less effective than what it is now, Roger, because you want that to start at the upper frequency. You're pretty close, I think, now. If you would tell me about 15 seconds of your antenna situation, let me hear you.
Okay. We're using a 132-foot end-fed antenna of about 30 feet, and a 40-meter dipole with a similar height, and butternut HF 9V.
Roger. I think it sounds pretty good now. I would run it that way for a while and see who salutes, Roger.
Okay, fine. Just one other question. Is there any on the equalizer, on the higher one, before I was running again at 2800 with a bandwidth of 2 and a plus 10. It's now set at 2200. With plus 10, and I have a bandwidth of 2. I didn't know if widening that bandwidth would help on the higher end.
Mike sounds pretty good now. I think I would leave it for the time being. It just seems to me, and this is just my opinion, that folks dealing with parametric equalizers, it gives you a lot more capability, but it sure sometimes becomes a pain in the whatever, because sometimes you can have too many options. And I know, I love parametric EQ, but as far as the simplicity of a very basic 3-band EQ, non-parametric, gives you probably as much control as you need. My deal is that I usually keep the mid-range EQ flat, because the whole idea is to find balance between the top and the bottom. And if you boost the mid-range, it's so much harder for the top and the bottom to catch up to balance. So keep the, I always keep the mid-range EQ flat, and then it's easier to find balance by, bringing up the bottom or the top or whatever it needs. Roger?
Okay, yeah, no, and I agree. I had the 7610. Of course, since I had come from the 5000, I was frustrated that there was so little to adjust on the 7610. But to your point, it was a lot better in the real world. Just one thing, if I could here, I have this.
Just one thing, if I could here, I have this. You were talking about the mid-range, and I've been running mine at a -6, which I thought maybe sounded better on the monitor. And now I'm running that thing at 0, as maybe you were suggesting. Did that make any difference of note?
Oh, certainly, yes. But keep that at 0, and then go to your ALC, because you've had an increase in signal strength on your ALC since you reduced that roll in the mid-range, particularly mid-range. So you're a lot hotter now. So come back and readjust by mic level your ALC level.
Okay. Okay, testing with this, the mic, let me bring down the processor level too here. This thing has an AMC control. I don't know if you're familiar with those things, but it makes it, when you change one thing, you almost have to change another. So I'm down now to
really doesn't come down much more. I'm at a mic gain level.
A mic gain level of 20 now, and processing level of 20, which is a lot lower than it had been.
All right, what's your ALC reading?
Okay, ALC is running pretty much mid-scale to
Roger, I'm not getting as good a signal on you now as I was, so it's a little bit harder to tell, but I think you will be better off with that flat mid-range EQ. Keep that mid-range EQ flat, and then it's so much easier to find balance. What happens is, well, I don't want to say what happens, just keep that mid-range flat.
Okay, Jim, that's fine. I've taken up enough time, and it sounds like bringing that thing to flat maybe was helpful. I'll have to play around here and maybe fool around with the other AMC setting and then get this ALC at your recommended level of half to 2/3. So, again, thank you for all your help. You're a treasure to the amateur community. So 73, have a great weekend. This is N3GKV.
Roger, and you did have a little distortion there, and I think it was due to the fact that you had that mid-range roll down, and so now that distortion has gone by the boards. I don't hear that at all anymore. So good on you. Save it down close enough, and join us next Friday.
Okay, very good, Jim. Thank you. 73. Have a great weekend.
Roger, 3Z sir. This is KC9VKV, the Friday afternoon QSO-VLOG network. If you have a radio you want to check out, give me a shout.
This is W4KWI, Whiskey 4 Kilo, Whiskey India.
Kilo Whiskey India. This is KC9VKV. Come back with a call sign again.
It's a Whiskey 4 Kilo, Whiskey India, W4KWI, located in Homewood, Alabama.
Roger, what's the name there?
Name here is Tim, Tango, India, Mike.
Alrighty, Tim, what radio are you running, sir?
I'm running a ICOM 7300.
All right, let me give you a little pointer on that mic. Are you running the stock mic?
Yes, that's Roger.
Good. That's a great mic for that radio. Thing is, though, you have to work it specifically to the side of your mouth, pull it to the side of your mouth, and talk across it. Do not talk directly into it, because it is an electret element in there that will cause a lot of mouth noise if you try to work that mic direct. So take that mic and work it, put it to the side of your mouth, to the side of your lips, and talk across it. Roger?
Okay, I'm talking across it this time right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Very good, yes. And you can really solve that problem if you get a foam windscreen that just slips ever so nicely right over that microphone. You do have to mark the right end of the microphone because that windscreen will, you could just as easily be on the back side of that mic as on the front side because that foam windscreen does cover it. But I usually put a little piece of tape on the right side, so at least I know I'm working the right side. But that a foam windscreen would just totally solve all of those mic problems, and you don't have to be particularly careful about how you work the microphone. Then you can work it directly into it if you run that foam windscreen, Roger.
Okay, Roger, I may have to do that. I do have a question for you. I've got a 1976 gold, I guess it's gold-plated D104 desk mic, and I just wanted to see if I could wire that desk mic up to this radio.
All right, the question is it a powered D104?
It is powered. I guess I could probably take that part out.
No, you want to keep, I'm talking mic preamp, Roger?
Yes, mic preamp, it is powered.
Roger, you want to keep that because that will make that microphone work because the output of that mic preamp is low impedance and it will work right into your radio. Otherwise, if you just tried to use the element, the D104 element by itself going into the mic input, it would sound just like sheet 10 because it's a very high impedance element. And the thing about it is that that mic preamp that's in there has a FET front end, which is a real high impedance and matches the element just perfectly. So you have a very good situation in that you have the mic preamp in that D104, Roger.
Yeah, Roger. Okay. And what about the amplifier on the mic? Will I turn it all the way up and adjust the mic gain on the radio, or will I turn the microphone amp there way down?
I think what you want to be is about mid-scale on your mic input. About noontime, if you have a normal pot kind of thing, and you're talking a time of day as references to gain, and you go from 8 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the evening, I think straight up noontime, maybe 11 o'clock is a good level for the radio, and then turn wherever you have to turn on the mic preamp to make that work out on your ALC to where you're running mid-scale to 2/3 on your ALC, Roger.
Okay, Roger. Yeah, that sounds good. That's kind of exciting, really. I never did wire the thing up because I wasn't real sure about it. Didn't want to mess something up on it, but I think I'll give it an old try there this weekend, see what I can come up with.
Roger. Now, on your radio now, go to your ALC and check your ALC levels. It looks like you might be just a little hot. We advise running that preamp at about a 3. A preamp engaged at about a 3. Roger?
Okay, give me a second. Okay, that may sound better there or it may sound worse.
I think it's coming along. Now, you're looking at you have your compressor in there at a 3, Roger?
Let's see, it's on a 4. Let me go to a 3. Here's a 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yes, sir. That's good. Now, go to your ALC with mic gain in hand and adjust your mic gain to where your ALC is running mid-scale to 2/3.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, right about there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, now I did hear a shift in technical frequency response of your microphone. Were you working it differently than you were before?
Yes.
Okay, what you were doing before, you need to stay on axis to your microphone. Don't, under no circumstances, pull off that mic. Stay on axis to the mic.
Okay, Roger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's good. And tell me about your antenna system.
I've just got a inverted V up in a tree about 35 feet high, and had it there, I don't know, a good long time now. It seems to do pretty good.
Yes, and your audio is great. So if you want to hear your audio in our little session, if you go to YouTube and do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor, that will take you to our QSO-VLOG page. And on that page, you'll be looking for a specific QSO-VLOG entitled My Group Aircheck 12420. And I repeat, My Group Aircheck 12420. Roger?
Okay, Roger. I was writing that down. Sorry for the delay there, but I'll sure listen to that.
Okay, now you sounded like you might have been just a little bit off axis. I'm very serious about that. You have to pick a point and just work that microphone specifically that way, because some mics are very sensitive to off-axis incoming audio, and they tend to roll off that top end. So you want to stay right on the axis of that microphone for best top end response. Roger.
Roger, yeah, I was off on that. I guess I need to kind of get used to it. Like when I'm bow hunting with my bow, I got a place there to when I pull the bow back, I anchor it on my side of my lip, and I anchor it there each time. So kind of like that, I guess. And another question on the D104. So if I wire it up this weekend, will I talk across it, or will I talk directly into it?
Probably you want to be about 3 or 4 inches away from that mic, and if you do have any transients, then you can actually, put a windscreen on that. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with exactly how to wire that. What I normally do is I hate those like 8-pin jacks. I avoid getting into that connector if at all possible. I would rather buy an 8-pin to 8-pin jumper, cut the jumper in half, and Siamese the mic to the other end of the jumper than getting inside that multi-conductor mic input jack.
Okay, that makes more sense. We got Hamfest coming up in March. I may have to go that route, see what I can look at there in the used parts area there.
Roger. And then what you do is you've got a ground shield coming off your radio, and you've got a ground shield coming off your microphone. I connect those two together, and then I only need 2 more connections to make that work. So I've got my two shields tied together, and I'm looking for the key circuit first. Looking for the key circuit from the lead coming from the radio. So, I'm tapping, tap to ground until I find the radio keys. So I know that's my key circuit to the radio. And then I go through on the mic side to find the actual key circuit on the mic. And you just key it and go around until you find the key circuit from the mic, and tie the key circuit from the radio and the mic together. So you've got the key circuit down, and then you're just looking for the audio, and the audio will probably be the one coming from the radio that the shield was wrapped around. So you start with that as the audio from the radio, because it had the ground shield wrapped around it, and you look from the mic line coming in and find the wire that was probably the shield was wrapped around on that. Take those two together and key, and you should be there, Roger.
Roger. Okay. I appreciate that information. I'll have to give that a try there, because I really like the little gold D104 since it's an antique, and that kind of thing, and kind of a collector's item, so I'll just try to do that. I enjoyed the QSO there. Thank you so much for the information, and I'll go to the YouTube site and listen into that. So I enjoyed it so much. Thank you so much for helping people. And we'll be clear on your file. This is W4KWI.
And what was the name there?
Name here is Tim, Tango India Mike.
Roger, sir. 3 thanks for dropping by. And, check in next Friday and let me know how you did with your D104 project, Roger.
Roger.
3 way. This is KC9VKV and the Friday afternoon QSO-VLOG network. If you have a radio you want to check out, give us a shout.
November 9th.
KV, K4, TLC. WW0, Juliet Mike.
Juliet Mike station. Come back with a call sign again.
Yeah, it's WW0, Juliet Mike. Back to you there, for Jim.
Roger. What's the name there?
You got J on this end, Juliet Alpha Yankee. We talked back in November. I just thought I'd give you a buzz and say hello before you got a chance to get signed off there. Back to you.
Roger, Jay. What radio are you running, sir?
We're still on the 7300 there, Jim. We went through all the settings before. I haven't touched a thing. Back to you.
Roger. Well, have you had good reports on your audio?
Excellent. And listen, I thank you so much. I'll tell you what, it was kind of lost there before we got a chance to talk. But it's been right at 2 months, and had nothing but good things to hear there. Back to you.
Roger. Well, that's just a great radio. Just is, like I say, the thing that I can say about it that is slightly negative would be the difficulty in achieving 100% 100-watt output on single sideband. And that's the only downside to that. And there's different remedies for that. But, if you're running a power amplifier, you're probably only going to be running about 50 watts or so anyway. So, the difficulty in achieving 100 watts isn't even a question. Roger?
Roger on that. Well, Jim, of course, there's always answers to everything on the internet, and YouTube happened to have a fellow on there that told me exactly what to do, and I trusted him, and I did it, and it worked out really well. But this radio was putting out about 88 watts max when I purchased it, and it's up around 120, on the high side. But there again, just like what you were saying, I run it about 55 watts into a Maritron, so it's kind of redundancy, when you're trying to get things to work at their supreme capacity, and then you turn around and you don't need it at all. So that's the way it goes there. Back to you.
Yeah, Roger. Yeah, it's a great radio, and I've been running one now for about 4 weeks. My owner wanted me to do a little AV test to enlighten myself personally about the finer aspects of digital inclinations that the 7300 has over the Yaesu 990, and I have seen that, and the thing is, though, the way I have to run my receivers, it hisses. Well, it's going to be there because I'm not running 30 dB front end. I'm running just under compression, AGC compression, and I'm usually running in antenna attenuate to avoid overloads that I can't get to, in time. Because we do want the best recordings possible. So those two aspects are certainly challenging for any radio as far as system noise, because you are running, so light RF front end. Now, if you're running where you have about 20 or 30 dB AGC compression, you wouldn't hear noise even to begin with, because, it would be sucking up band noise before you hear system noise. Roger?
Roger on that. Jim, listen, do you run HDR at all? Or do you have that tied into the radio at all?
Repeat that again. The
program that you can run free or buy off the net.
Gosh, you're kind of faded out there. I'm not sure what the word was. Come back and let me try you one more time, please.
Ham Radio Deluxe HRD. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I am, and no, I don't.
Okay. Well, I'm running that on mine, and there is I don't know how it does it, but I do know that it works. But there's an attenuation button that you can press.
Frequencies in use, please.
And attenuating to your speakers and all on the radio. So I thought maybe that might be interesting for you, because that is a detriment to the radio itself, that you can't really adjust that too well there. Back to you.
Roger that. Well, I'm running, like I say, 2 receivers. I am the proverbial, what do you call that guy, the in the circus, the guy that's throwing the balls up. I got about 8 balls up at any one time. I'm running 2 receivers and 4 SDRs, and I'm always, between those, looking for the hot signal. Roger?
to you.
Roger, Roger. Well, I appreciate you checking in there, and audio sounding good. What I was hearing, your signal has dropped off quite a bit now, so it's down into that area that it's hard to hear. But let me say threes to you, and I appreciate you checking in, Roger.
Okay, Jim. Thanks so much, and 73s to you. And we'll get back out off to the side. I think maybe you got enough chance to take one more fellow, and we'll leave it at that. WW0, Juliet Mike. Thank you so much, Jim. We'll talk to you later.
Roger, Roger. Three's that way, sir. You have a great afternoon, beautiful weekend, and join us next Friday if you get a chance. This is KC9VKV. We do have about 4 minutes to... I remembered what it was we change into at 5 o'clock. Pumpkin. We change into a pumpkin at 5 o'clock. So you have 4 minutes to do a quick air check. KC9VKV listening.
You.
Something you or something... I just caught the tail end of it. I was coming off Arlington back to my local receiver, and I just caught the tail end of somebody that was giving me a 20 over, but I don't know who it was.
Kilo 4, Hotel Echo Whiskey.
Echo Whiskey, it was you, sir.
Guilty as charged, Jim. This is Joe over in Raleigh, and just wanted to tell you I've got a report on the audio. You helped me set my 7300 up last week, and we tweaked it, and I've left it where it is. Since then, I've contacted both Lithuania and Slovenia and flat-footed it 100 watts, and they've told me the audio just sounded perfect. So appreciate your help on that. That's a success. Roger?
Roger, thank you very much, sir. It means a whole lot to get stories of people's excursions into the other realms of DX. You know, I pretty much have decided, or had decided when we put this station together, that I primarily wanted to work the East Coast, and we wanted to do about a 20 over from Montreal to Miami, and that does put a pretty hot spot in North Carolina, and that's essentially where we're communicating with from Montreal to Miami, and we're not going usually a bunch west. So like I say, it's mainly east. Roger.
Sure enough, yeah, you're 20 to 25 over on my. I've expanded the scope up on the 7300. It's pretty accurate. I don't know if it's putting out 100 watts or not, but it does have I guess that is a percentage readout. When you push the a multi-button, you can see at the top 100. I take that to mean watts, but I think it's percentage. But I do have a perfect match to the antenna, and I think that's the secret, Roger.
STP.
STP, stand by just a moment, please. Yeah, that multi is showing you a percentage, I believe, and just turn that up full, because there's no reason to run less than the best that radio can do. And that's the same thing with their band pass. You want to run 100 to 2900. I usually recommend putting that in the wide, medium, and narrow. 100 to 2900. That way you can't make a mistake and run anything other than that. Roger?
Yeah, that's exactly where it's at. I've got it tweaked. I put the super glue on it. I think it's gonna get me by for the short term anyway. I appreciate it, Jim. It's K4HEW. I know you're approaching the pumpkin hour. I won't go over.
Roger, Roger. All right, 3 that way, sir. And you have a great afternoon, beautiful weekend. And if you can, join us next Friday.
Sure enough. 73s, K4HEW, clear.
Roger, 3 that way. And there was the other station that was calling?
Mobile station Kilo 0, Sierra Tango Papa.
Sierra Tango Papa station. I believe that was you that tried earlier. Is that a Roger?
Roger. The complete call is Kilo 0, Sierra Tango Papa Mobile.
Mobile? What? Where are you mobile?
I'm in the state of Virginia, in a little town named Gainesville, Lawrence County, 82 miles southwest of Washington, D.C. QSL?
Roger, what was the call again, please?
Again?
What was your call sign again, please?
Kilo 0, Sierra Tango Papa, K0 STP.
Roger, and what radio are you running, sir?
ICOM 7000, ICOM 7000, 7000, Roger.
All righty, Roger. Well, gosh, sounding good there. That mobile is challenged at the moment. Conditions are not that great, but you are punching through, Roger.
No fading as at the present, so I'm not going to hold it. I just wanted to drop in and cut to your proper salute, bid you a beautiful Friday, and hope you have a outstanding weekend. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and say 7-3. This is mobile station K0STP.
Roger, STP. Well, I just went to the Atlanta SDR, and you're tearing my head off. There must be a 20 over in Atlanta, Roger.
Roger. Well, hey, it's always good to know that the mobile station is working, right?
Roger. Now, what was your location in that mobile?
In Gordonsville, Virginia. Well, I'm in the town, and I have a lot of artificial noise going across my receive, so I'm not going to hold it any further. Everything on QRZ.com is correct and up to date, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and say 7-3. Hope to hear you during the Winter's Field Day. Mobile station K0STP is by.
Roger, sounding outstanding. If you'd like to hear your transmissions, we have been recording live from 3:30 till now. So if you go to YouTube and do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor, that will take you to our QSO-VLOG page. Right now we're running about 920 some odd QSOs. You'll be looking for one in particular, and it's called My Group Aircheck 12420, which is today's date. My Group Aircheck 12420. Roger. And I'm not copying you anymore, even in Atlanta, so let me say threes to you, sir. You have a great weekend, and we'll catch you later. And, gosh, we are officially now 3 minutes into a pumpkin, so we got to jump out of here. Let me find the close. We do have the close, and I know where it is. I know the color of it. The close is purple. I have color-coded a bunch of this stuff, and well, gosh, it's working. Yes, all right, here we go, officially. Well, it's time to wrap up our QSO-VLOG network for today. My name is Jim, KC9VKV, and since 3:30 we've been recording live, so if you participated and want to check out to see what your radio sounds like, just go to YouTube and do a call letter search for KC9VKV, and that will take you to our QSO-VLOG page, where we're now running about 920 or so QSO-VLOG air checks, but you'll be looking for a specific air check called My Group Aircheck 12420. My Group Aircheck 12420. And give us a couple of days to get it uploaded to YouTube. And just a reminder, we run the QSO-VLOG network each Friday afternoon from 3:30 till 5 p.m. Eastern on this frequency, 7188. So here's a big thanks to all who participated. We'll see you next Friday afternoon at 3:30. This is KC9VKV, and we now return this frequency back to normal amateur use. This is KC9VKV clear.
I sure would have liked to talk to you, Jim. Whiskey 4, Charlie X-Ray Tango. Catch you next time. Thank you, sir.
Got a good signal there, about 20 over on my local antenna. Roger.
Talking about me, Jim, WCXT?
Yes, sir, XT. About a 20 over on my local antenna. We're located just across the river from Louisville, Kentucky.
Roger that. W4CXC to KC9VKV. Maybe we'll catch up with you next Friday or whatever. I wanted to give this old Yazoo FT920 a little tweaking and see how my audio sounded. But like I said, I know you're past your time. Just give me the thumbs up and tell me I'm okay for right now till next time, and we'll have a good weekend. How about that, Mr. Jim, W4CXT?
Sounds pretty good. You might be just a little hot in the mid-range. Can you check your EQ real quick?
Yes, sir. W4CXT. This is just where I've had it sitting for a while. If you got time to mess with it, I can play with it some, and it's a Yazoo FT920, and I can turn it down or up or whatever I need to do, and I kind of trust you very good there, Mr. Jim. Thank you.
All right, sir. Is that a 3-band EQ?
I think on the radio I think it's a 4-band. I'm not sure, but I got the MD100 microphone too, so I leave it turned off as far as the equalizers on the microphone. I just use the one in the radio so far.
Yeah, that's good. Now, if you, wish you knew your equalizer, we could just do it real quick. But here's the thing. What we want to do is back off that mid-range a little bit. It's much too hot, and you're sounding really tinny. So I would say, if you have a 3-band EQ, put that mid-range EQ flat. Bring it to where it's not color boost. Mid-range EQ flat, and then you're in good position for your top and your bottom end EQs to have more of effect as far as achieving balance. Do you know your radio pretty well? Can you go to your EQ pretty quick?
Yes, sir. I know some of it. I just found the website where it has the hidden menu, where it's got, so many different kinds of settings as far as, from 0 to -500, and there's like 4 different ones for it. I'm just now going to the menu setting for, for the equalizer itself it's got the 1, 2, 3, and 4, preset settings. Right now is the 4. I'm sure, see if I can get to it here without messing up a whole lot of stuff, because a lot of them are set for like a -100 and -150 on the hidden menu. Enter, see if it'll let me change it here while I'm talking. Okay, now it says number 3 this is a different setting. I don't know if that makes any difference or not.
No, it's still pretty heavy mid-range. Go through, what, you got 4 presets?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm trying to remember exactly what it says, but, for the descriptions in the manual. But this is the 3rd one. The 4th one says broadcast or whatever. I think the 3rd one, I can't remember, Jim. If you want me to, I'll see if I can go back to the menu here and change it back to it. Okay, there's the 2 preset, if that makes any difference, if it changed it or not.
I'd say I think we're running out of conditions. I would put it back like it was, and maybe if you can give me a call next Friday, earliest around 3:30, and we can, probably about 3:40 or so after Charlie K1GZL, and it's easier to get to me earlier. Roger.
Roger that, but you're usually busy the whole time. Seems like whenever you ask if anybody else is there, you end up with a pile up. So anyway, good enough. This is the 1 setting, so I'm not sure what it sounds like now, but if it doesn't sound any different, I'll put it back on the 4 where it was. Anyway, I appreciate your time, Jim. Well, like I said, we'll catch you next Friday maybe, and then we'll listen to the recording and all that kind of stuff. Even though I kind of do that on a halfway regular basis, nowadays you can go to the SDRs and different ones, and I can record that, what I sound like somewhere else and all. But anyway, I appreciate it, Jim. I know you're a big help to a lot of people. Anyway, W4CXT, Jim, I'll be clear with you, KC9VKV. You have yourself a good weekend, sir.
Roger, CXT. Well, if you go to YouTube and do the call letter search, KC9VKV, and then once you get to the QSO-VLOG page, look for my group Aircheck 12420. You'll hear exactly what I'm talking about, and you'll notice that I have a spectrum analyzer in the set, and just over the end of my microphone you can see the spectrum analyzer, and you can see what your curve is. You should be between the white lines. between the white line to the left and somewhere between the two white lines on the right. The one on the left marker on the spectrum analyzer denotes 100 cycles. The two to the right, the first one to the right denotes 1 kc. Then there's a space. That space is 2 kc. And then the next marker is 4 kc. So you should be right at the blank between the two markers, ideally. Roger?
Roger that. Okay, I appreciate it. And I'll go ahead and delve back into my extensive notes here and see if I can find all my mid-range stuff, and I'll just try and back off the mid-range some. And we'll just go from there, Jim. How about that?
It sounds good. Sounds good. If you can, the thing is, I get really upset sometimes about engineers that design radios, and they think that, that they know exactly what you need, and a lot of times maybe don't give you the capability of bringing up what you really want. You have to suffice with 1 through 4 of their preconceived opinions of what you need. But the idea would be if you could find one of those that you can press ahead and do your own thing with your local EQ, that would be what you'd want to do. So we'll discuss those next Friday. We'll say 3s for now. Roger?
Yeah, roger that. Okay. Sounds good, Jim. We'll say 73s. And like I said, I'll get into my menu. And like I said, I found on another ham's page where it shows how to get to the hidden menu, and I've done that before. And I can adjust all kinds of ranges for transmit, receive, and all that kind of stuff. So I can get out of those preconceived, notions that radio manufacturers have and kind of adjust it. But anyway, all right, sounds good. Like I said, I appreciate it, Jim. W4CXT, I'll be clear after you, sir.
Roger. Well, 3s that way, sir, and thanks for giving me a shout. If you get a chance, join us next Friday. 3s for now. Have a great weekend. This is KC9VKV. We've already done the close, so we'll just say hasta la vista. We turn the frequency back to normal amateur use. KC9VKV, clear.